Okay, you see, I think the problem, there are two problems. I think one is it doesn't understand that Zionism is a process. It's not a static thing that has reached a certain point and then stops. It's a process. It's a process of dispossession. And because it's a process of dispossession, it provokes resistance. And because there is resistance, Israel is permanently insecure. Because Israel is permanently insecure, it needs to take more land and bring in more people, more settlers. So you've got an ongoing, unfinished process of dispossession, of the creation of settlements, of Israeli expansion into areas which are still being lifted by Palestinians. It's not, in other words, it's not just a colonial settler state backed by the imperial powers, it's also a predatory colonial settler state that's continuing to expand. It therefore can't be part of any solution, any lasting, permanent solution. The second problem is this, with this approach. It's muddling up two different things. The nature of the state, on the one hand, and the fact there's lots of people living in the area, some of whom are Jews, and some of whom are Muslims, and some of whom are Arabs with Arab Christians, and so on. The issue is not two states. The issue is, let us create some kind of entity in the region that respects the right of all people, regardless of faith, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of background, to live together in a community which is not based on systematic dispossession and discrimination directed against one section of the population. It is, Abdul has used this word, it's a system of apartheid. We have to get rid of the state that is based on apartheid and create a different kind of state where everybody can live together decently, a little bit like your Ottoman Empire, though I hope it'll be rather better than the Ottoman Empire.
Right. Well, I really absolutely agree with that comment. Absolutely. You see, I think people who talk about two states and partition, and I understand you, because that represents a commonly held view. That somehow, let's see, there are these two groups of people, how can we do right by both of them? It's not right if we get rid of or throw out the invaders and their descendants, that is the Israelis, Jewish Israelis, and so on. So what's the best way, fairest way? Say, well, okay, we'll partition the country, and so on. Very quickly, a note on 1947, first of all, before I continue it. 1947, what I think you're referring to is the UN partition plan, which proposed to divide Palestine into roughly equal halves. One which it called an Arab state, the other which it called a Jewish state, and Jerusalem was supposed to be an international state, a city under international administration. That was the UN partition plan, 1947, which was never implemented. Okay, so let me just try and be as brief as I can. The reality is, if people talk about two states, as I say, with the best will in the world, it is to misunderstand the nature of Israel. It is to misunderstand what we have in the Middle East. We don't have an ordinary state. We have a settler apartheid state, which is aggressive, which is expansionist, exactly as Neil has said. That there is no room for a state like this in the Middle East, nor, frankly, anywhere else. So if we start from that premise, that such a state that practices this kind of policy, ideology, is not acceptable, we then start to ask the real question, which is, okay then, what are we going to do? And I hope we can talk about that later.